Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. In this video, I'm going to help you knock out any problems you may be having with either your walking or your running form. Now, many of you already recognize that you're having problems with your walking or running form, and that's why you're here on the channel. But a lot of you may be unaware when you're having issues. But you could be suffering from many of the common conditions that are caused by poor walking or running form, and you will greatly benefit from this video. If you're unfamiliar with some of the problems that incorrect walking or running form can cause, I'll share those with you briefly. There's a lot of them. They can go from either plantar fasciitis, which is pain in the bottom of your heel here, or Achilles tendonitis, which is pain in the back of the heel here. Very commonly, especially with running or walking upstairs, you can get patellofemoral syndrome, which is pain in the front of the knees. Then there is trochanteric bursitis or tendonitis on the side of the hip, gluteal tendonitis, which is on the back side of your hip, or chronic lower back pain, upper back pain, or neck pain. If you have any of those problems now, or they come and go, and they weren't caused by a very specific injury, you may have problems with the way you walk, or if you're a runner, with the way you run. And we're going to use some kickboxing techniques in this video so you can learn how to understand your body movement, your core muscle activation in a more conscious way. And those will translate to your walking or running form, because I'm going to describe exactly how to engage your muscles properly to do these movements. I've done a lot of Tai Chi videos, and Tai Chi is also great for balance and coordination of your muscles. But Tai Chi is a little bit more difficult than what I'm going to show you here, which is some very basic kickboxing exercises, not for the purpose of you getting behind the cage and kickboxing, but strictly for the purpose of you learning how to activate your core muscles in a conscious manner. Now, I'm not going to say engage those muscles, because a lot of people, when they talk about engaging the muscles, they're talking about tightening the muscles. I'm not talking about tightening the muscles. That's kind of a waste of time. When we're talking about how to move properly, we need to know how to activate those muscles in the core. And those muscles in the core help project your body, your arms and your legs in a very specific manner that allow you to move more consciously, move with more confidence, better spinal alignment, and lower impact on your joints. If you're new to the channel, I'm Dr. Todd Martin. I'm the creator of the Walking Code. Let's go ahead and get started. But before we do, if you find value from this video, go ahead and click the like button and subscribe to the channel if you're not already a subscriber. If you're interested in supporting the channel, after you finish watching this video, you can jump on over to my website and sign up for the Walking Code Archive. On the Walking Code Archive, I have all of my back catalog of YouTube videos arranged in a much more accessible fashion. It has a very nominal fee for subscription, but that will help support me so I can continue to offer free videos here on YouTube. You can also follow the links in the description section to sign up for the Walking Code online course or to pick up your Walking Code ebook. Also, drop me a comment and let me know what you thought of this video, or let me know if you have any other great ideas for the channel. So why are kickboxing exercises going to be a better way to understand your core than doing Tai Chi? And I'll explain it to you this way. When we're doing Tai Chi, we're doing a lot of stepping actions, transferring weight, stepping from one place to another. We have to use a lot of balance, and there's a lot of complex arm movement involved in each one of those actions. When we're going to do some basic kickboxing exercises, we're beginning for all of them with one common stance, and that is a stable stance here, and then we can achieve all of the different movement patterns that we need to get from this one starting position. and we're going to be balanced when we get in this position. We're not going to have to do a lot of weight shifting and balancing as we transfer from one movement to another. What is also great is we have some very easy to understand arm movements and leg movements that are going to attach to your core activation. And you're going to be able to see when your arms and legs are projecting themselves in the way they're supposed to. If they don't go where they're supposed to in a relaxed manner, not forcing it, then you know there's something wrong with your core activation, and you can work on the movement patterns until you get the arms landing in the place they're supposed to. As I go through each movement, I'm going to explain where in your walking or running form this specific core movement pattern is used. And we're going to go ahead and start with a jab. To begin, all the exercises are going to begin in this kickboxing stance. So we're going to have roughly a shoulder width stance. The front leg is going to have the foot facing forward. The rear leg is going to have the foot angled out about 45 degrees. And we're going to shift our weight back to a flat-footed position on the rear leg, not all the way back to the heel and not feeling like your weight is on the ball. It should have a very flat-footed position with your weight evenly distributed throughout your rear foot. We're going to put the hands up like this. So they're roughly about chin level for the hand closest to your face and slightly higher on the other hand. Elbows should be relaxed, angled downward, and your head should be elevated up, elongating your spine. And the first thing we're going to do is check your body position, because we're going to be activating the core even in stillness with this kickboxing stance. And if you're not in the proper stance, your core may not be properly activated from the get-go. From the side view, we're going to have your weight sitting back on the flat foot on the rear leg. Hands in this position, roughly in the midline. Elongate your spine upwards so you're not tilted forward or tilted back. Your neck should feel elongated, and at this point, your lower abs should be tucking on the right side, the side of your rear leg, engaging your pelvis on this side and keeping it in a neutral position. So you don't want your pelvis tipping forward like this or tipping back like this. A nice neutral pelvic position. You're going to have your arms relaxed, and hopefully we've found this position. And from here, we're going to do the first movement, which is the jab. And we're not going to have to do it fast. We're going to do it slow, because we're just trying to feel how our waist and hip muscles are coordinating to project the arm where we want it to go. So the jab is going to go forward on the side of the forward leg. That's your left arm projecting out in line with your left leg. The right arm in this position, when we do the jab, is not going to move. And then we're going to shift back. There should be a rotation of your fist as you do the movement if your core rotation is correct, because there's a twisting rotation in the core, which I'll explain in a bit, and that is going to cause your fist to rotate. So when I start, my left fist is facing across the body. Right fist is also facing to the other side across the body. And as you do the jab, it should naturally rotate until it is thumb down or palm down. We're going to shift into the jab and then shift back. The rear heel is going to stay grounded. It should not pop up as you do the movement. Your body should not tip forward as you do the movement. Your head should stay completely elongated with your spine as you shift forward. The knee should get above your ankle when you complete the strike and then move back. So it should not go way past your ankle, past your toes. Right up to lining up with your ankle when we're doing it correctly. First, do it slowly, and then you can do it a little faster. I'm going to explain the core movements later on in the video, but first I'm going to connect the movements to what we're doing when we're walking or when we are running. When we're walking upstairs, that movement that we use when we're doing the jab is going to be done after we place our flat foot on the step and we begin to move up like this. That is the jab motion right there. It's going to really require tucking the pelvis under to get your alignment correct here and also to drive the body forward and up, which is what we need to do if we're going to go up the stairs with proper posture. A lot of people walk upstairs bent over like this because they don't have that core movement down. So that jab movement is going to be right here, and see how it, from this position, is going to lift me forward and up before I begin completing that step up the stairs. That same core movement is going to apply if we're walking up a hill where we have to drive the body weight up on a slope. And it's going to occur after the heel places. Just pretend I'm on a hill right now. After your heel places on the ground, we're going to be doing that same motion as you shift forward to the flat foot position. We're driving that motion with the glutes behind to push the body forward and up the hill, just like we did when we were moving forward and up the stairs. Now, you're going to learn in a little bit that we don't need the glutes to push us forward when we're walking on level ground because we're not working against gravity in the same way. But when we're walking up a hill, you're going to need the glutes for that forward and up motion before you end up standing up and then moving forward on the hill. Now let's look at how we apply this same movement when we are running. This is a key movement, especially if you are a mid-foot strike runner, which is one of the healthiest ways and most effective ways to run if we're running at moderate to slightly higher speeds. The other really important place that's going to be used is when we're landing with the mid-foot strike. As we're running, when we land, you're going to have the rear leg still reaching out behind the body, and you're going to land on the flat foot. And you're landing in that same core position, except for the rear leg is off the ground, but it's still reaching back. But the core abdominal muscles are tucked under here, helping you to land flat-footed, and then your waist rotation is going to be the same. So really it is the same motion as if you were doing that. But the rear leg is in the air. So I'm just going to do it slowly. You're going to see that landing right there. That is the mid-foot land. It's the same core position as the jab. The next movement we're going to look at is the cross, which is this punch here where we're punching with the hand on the side of the rear leg. So that is a cross, and this is going to use a very common core action that we need when we're walking or when we're running. From the side view, that is the cross. We still have to maintain vertical posture, perfect alignment. We are using our glutes. Just like when we did the jab, we're using our glutes to push off the ground. We did that in the jab. We're going to push off the ground with the glutes in the cross here. But you're going to notice Your heel is going to come up off the ground when you do the cross, and your knee is going to pivot in. So your ankle is going to pivot on the ground a little bit as you do that motion. So practice this one slowly so you don't twist your knee. The knee is going to begin angled out at 45 degrees along with your foot. And when you finish the motion, your knee and ankle are going to be forward or just a little bit across the forward midline. Just like with the jab, the hand is going to rotate over, so it's going to be thumb down because of the core rotation, our waist muscle rotation. We're projecting our energy forward from the right side of your upper abs when we do the cross, as opposed to the left side of the upper abs when you do the jab. And then the lower abs are doing the opposite motion as well. When we did the jab, we were transferring our root, or the lower abdominal tucking action, from the rear leg to the forward leg. So if you want to engage your lower abs and feel the tucking action, in the jab, it's going to be here on the forward leg. It begins on the rear leg tucked, ends on the forward leg tucked. When we do the cross, the root is going to stay on the rear leg. So I'm tucked on my right, and I keep tucked on the right, and that helps project my right arm forward with the rotation. So I'm forward with the right upper abs, and I'm tucked with the right lower abs as I do that cross motion. We can also combine a jab and a cross. That is a great movement to do, which is going to help you learn how to subconsciously use the core waist rotation on one side and immediately transfer it to the other side. That's what's going on here when we transition from this movement to this movement. We're switching our core rotation from one side, left to right, left to right. That is all core waist rotation, even though it seems like everything is moving forward. It's just because the upper waist and lower waist are turning in opposite directions as we do each of those motions. And then they're completely switching sides as we transition from the first movement to the second movement. Now, where in walking do we use that movement, which is called a push in the walking code? First, let me describe the action of the push when we're walking upstairs. It's going to follow the action that we did with the jab. And I'll do my right leg forward here as we place on the flat of the foot. We did the jab motion going up to rise forward and up until we get to this position. Now, when we did the jab cross, we switched over to the other side. But in this position, when we're going up the stairs, we're going to do the push, but we're now going to switch our hip energy from the left leg to the right leg. So I'm going to keep my core waist rotation the same as it was when I got to this position. And then now I'm just going to push up from the standing leg hip. And that is what's going to push the body up before I place the next foot. And then this is the jab, like this. That is the jab. And then I'm going to do the push or the cross on that side. That's what's going to push me up before I walk forward. If I'm walking up a hill, we're going to see the jab here, and then we're going to lift up, which I'm going to show you in one of the next movements, and then we're going to do the push going forward, the push being the cross. So there's one movement in between the jab and the cross. We have the jab here, then we have a lift, and then we have the push. When we're running, we're going to use that push action of the core after we land on the flat foot, if we're doing a midfoot strike. But it's also going to be the motion right before we pulse ourselves off the ground, regardless of how you are running. We're going to land using the jab technique, and then we're just going to transfer our glute extension from the left leg to the right leg, and that's what begins to push us up and off the ground. It's not sufficient to get us off the ground, but it's that initial motion. We land and then we push. When you hear people talk about leaning forward to start to run, it's that motion that is creating the forward motion of the body. We're not leaning forward in this passive fashion, trying to fall against gravity when we're running. We are pushing the body, and it happens from that position to create a forward and up motion, which has a lean associated with it. But it's not a lean from the mind. We're not trying to lean forward. We are simply pushing in that fashion. This exact same motion is what we're doing after we land and then begin the push. It creates a slight lean until we can propel ourselves off the ground. The motion that we're going to use to get us off the ground when we're running, following the push, which is that lean, is going to be what I call in the walking code a pulse. And so this is going to use all of your core muscles rotating in the direction of the extending hip. When we do the push or the cross, you're turning your upper waist away from the hip that's extending against the ground, creating the cross. When we are doing a pulse, the action that is going to be powerful enough to lift us off the ground, we're turning everything in the direction of the extending hip. And I'm going to do a demonstration of how this would be used in kickboxing, but we're going to do it with the leg off the ground. So I'm going to do the pulse after shifting my weight forward, and I'm going to reach back with my rear leg and turn the upper and lower waist in the same direction, and it results in that sort of motion. It's a huge pulse of all the energy going back. So you can practice that. It's going to be a long, dragging motion bringing you behind. So that's how we can use that in kickboxing. We shift forward and then pulse that leg backwards. Imagine that energy, though, with the foot still on the ground, not in the air. All of that backwards energy is now propelling us off the ground forward, and that's how we get off the ground when we're running. Following the landing, the push, and then the pulse. That is what gets you off the ground. But it happens so quickly when we're running, that transition from push to pulse, that it's very difficult to feel. But it is that pulse action that is getting us off the ground. All right, so now we're going to do a bit of a transition. If you already caught on, all of the movements we've done up until this point, we're using extension of our hips, using our glute muscle in the back. We used our glute to do the jab, we used our glute to do the cross, we used our glute to do the pulse. And then we used the glute in all of the walking scenarios that I described, walking upstairs or walking uphill. When we are walking on level ground, we're not going to be using the glutes in the same fashion. Even though you'll hear a lot of people talk about having to use your glutes over and over again, it's really not what's going on when we're walking on level ground. And this kickboxing exercise demonstration should help clarify that for you. Where we are using the glutes when we're on level ground is to bring our forward hip into extension or relative extension after we place the heel and move the foot to the flat position. So my right glute is activating between here and here to prevent my hip from breaking into flexion. So that was all glute action there. And from this position, when we're walking, we need to activate the front muscles in the hip or the hip flexors to pull the body forward into that walking position. And when we're doing kickboxing, this is going to be called a shuffle forward, because we're going to do it from this position with the rear leg. Hip is going to help us to shuffle forward. And then we're going to do a reverse movement from the forward leg hip, also flexing to shuffle back. What you're going to learn in this action is how to differentiate the glute muscle pushing back from the hip flexors pulling forward. Real critical to understand this motion, because most people misunderstand it, thinking that we have to be pushing with the glute to get the leg to go behind us, but not so. We're going to be doing the same exact waist core movement as we did when we did the cross. That is your glute, along with your waist core muscles on the right. If I use the same waist core muscles on the right with the hip flexors pulling forward, it's going to cause me to shuffle forward like this. So this is a forward step in kickboxing, just like we would do a forward step in walking on level ground. So I'm pulling myself forward. When we're walking, that action is going to be the same action, only beginning from here. The same exact movement of the core brings me through to that position before I start the next step. So that is a pull, not a push. Practice the pull. If you can do it, then you know you have the right muscles working to do the swing through properly when you're walking. Now, when people walk with duck feet, they're always doing that swing through, not with the standing leg, they're doing that swing through with the swing leg like this. It causes the foot to turn out at an angle. We need to understand how to power the swing through with the hip of the standing leg, not the hip of the swing leg. And that is going to be this pull motion here. It pulls the body in line with the foot when we're walking on level ground. But it's the same action as this. In the walking code, I call that core technique lift. It lifts the body forward. If we do it from this position here where I just place my heel on the ground, it's going to lift the body up to a standing position. If I place the heel on the ground and shift forward like the first half of a step and then lift, it's going to lift the body forward like that, not just straight up. So that is the lift core technique, and that is the shuffle forward. What you'll notice here is I don't have to bring my forward foot off the ground before initiating the shuffle. When I initiate this core action here on the right to begin the shuffle, it causes my forward leg knee to extend slightly and the forward leg ankle to dorsiflex slightly, just enough to bring it off the ground, allowing me not to trip on it. And if I translate that to our normal walking technique, you're going to see that here. As I swing through using the same motion, my knee on the side of the swing leg is going to extend and the ankle on the side of the swing leg is going to dorsiflex, clearing the ground so you don't trip. Very important movements to get into your body. Our core actions, our waist muscles and our hips, are reflexively coordinated with our knee actions and our ankle actions. So we don't have to overthink what's going on with the ankles and the knees. If you do your core correctly, the ankles and the knees will move accordingly. The final exercise we're going to do today is the retreat. Retreat is the opposite of the lift, in that I'm going to be using my hip flexors, just like I did when I lifted forward, but I'm going to move backward. And we're gonna do it off of the hip of the forward leg. So I'm gonna turn the entire waist towards my forward leg as I flex the forward leg hip, and that's gonna cause me to retreat backwards. So it's like a shuffle backwards. We can shuffle forward, we can shuffle backwards. Now I haven't explained yet the shift of weight after we shuffle forward. We have to place the foot and shift the weight onto that forward leg before shifting our weight back to the rear leg. It happens very quickly. It's a place of the heel to the flat foot, and then we shift back. I'm not going to go into the details of that, but that is the same motion we're going to be doing when we're taking a step forward. And I'm going to just demonstrate it so you can see after I shuffle forward with the right foot, I'm going to do the weight shift, and then I'm going to do the shuffle forward from the left foot immediately from that same position, and that is going to cause me to walk forward like we would in our daily life. We shuffle forward, change weight, and then the shuffle forward just takes us into a normal step using the hip flexors on the left. This is the hip flexors on the right, and this is the hip flexors on the left. If you can get those core movements down, you're going to be able to walk and run much more efficiently with proper alignment of your spine and your other joints. If you made it this far in the video, I love you. But don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.